Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl. It's been like 4 or 5 weeks, but we're finally back with another Best Picture prediction episode, and a lot has gone down since the last time that we've been here together. We've had multiple movies come out with brand new trailers, but more importantly, we had our first major festival of the year, which, Matt, you got to attend.
Oh, baby, did I ever. And now I will apologize. It took me forever to edit those vlogs. They're out now, but man, I was so burnt out after the festival that I just essentially went into a coma. Not actually, but for all intents and purposes for the channel. I just was not editing for a bit after the festival, but I'm really excited to talk about all of these films today. Especially, it's always great bolding some of these names on the list, saying, "Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. I know how I feel about it. I know how I feel about its awards chances." So this is a really exciting episode because I get to make some hot takes, some hot claims that some people might disagree with. Some who have seen the films and some who have not seen the films will definitely disagree with. So I'm excited. Let me know in the comments what my stupidest opinion is here, because I'm gonna hit you with some doozies.
And that's the really fun part about this time in awards season, is that people have now started to actually see some of the real contenders, because up until this point, I would say most people are like me. The only real Oscar contender that they've seen is Sinners, while there's people like you, like Arno, like Brother Bro, and everyone else who attended the Cannes Film Festival that has now seen upwards of 10 films that could be in the realm of getting an Oscar nomination, whether that's in Best Picture or the International Feature category. So I'm really excited to talk today because I'm still at the same spot I was before the fest. However, now I get to hear firsthand your reactions out of the festival. But we do have a switch at the top of the boards because you do have a new number one in the Best Picture race.
Oh, baby. And okay, before people come at me for this and say, "Oh, you're just trying to predict another Honora." No, no. Let me explain. Let me explain. So I immediately, upon seeing Sentimental Value, moved it up to my number one in Best Picture, and I have it winning a total of 7 Oscars. 7 Oscars. I think Sentimental Value takes Best Picture, Director, Actress for Renata Reinsve, Supporting Actor for Stellan Skarsgård, Original Screenplay, Editing, and International Feature. That is 7 wins, with I think, an additional 2 nominations for Elle Fanning and Inga Ibsdottir Lilius. Maybe I'm missing one, but I think it gets 7 wins between 9 to 10 nominations. Is that crazy? Definitely. Absolutely. It's crazy. But I promise you, I'm not just trying to get ahead of the curve and have another like Lizanne Al Gaib moment like with Honora last year. I am 1,000% confident in this. I feel like this is a movie that has everything a Best Picture winner needs to have. And we're currently in a new era of the sweep. For the past, well, I would say since 2021, every year has been a sweep in a certain way. I mean, Coda won with very few nominations, but it won every single one of those nominations. Then Everything Ever All at Once, Oppenheimer, Honora, all of those films won basically everything they logically could have won. The thing that we're seeing in this new era of the Academy Awards is if people love a movie, they are going to vote for it wherever they possibly can. And Sentimental Value, in my opinion, is a movie that movie people are going to absolutely go nuts over. Not only is this a heartfelt and very funny drama about a family that's sort of under stress and trying to figure things out, but it's also very much a movie about the entertainment industry. It's a film that opens with a scene with an actor freaking out for like 5 minutes and trying to get out of her costume because of stage fright. It's a film that revolves around someone shooting a movie. And from the standpoint of being in the room at Cannes, where I was surrounded by movie people, every single joke about movies hits. It hits hard. And emotionally, it hits hard. This is a movie that leaves you at the end with that sort of gasp of, like, oh God, whoa, that hit me. And I think that's the feeling that you need to get from the ending of a movie that's going to win Best Picture. So I do have this sweeping. I do think that Renata Reinsve is incredibly strong. I actually prefer this performance to The Worst Person in the World. I think she is incredible here. It's career best work from every single actor in the movie. Stellan Skarsgård, watch out for him. He's cleaning up. That this is my bold call at this point, but it feels more right to me than anything else so far.
The first thing I want to say coming back to these predictions a month removed is Sentimental Value did exactly what I wanted to see it do. All the reasons why I was a little bit apprehensive about the film's chances, it overcame every single hurdle. So it has shot up my Best Picture rankings. It's in that top 3, arguably even top 2 placement here because like you said, we are in the era of the sweep where if this film does connect on the way that it connected with you and it connected with a lot of people over at the Cannes Film Festival, it could be a clean sweeper of not just Oscar night, but the entire award season at large in multiple categories because it's competing in international as well as in Best Picture, and it can compete at almost every award show prior heading up into the Oscars in a major category. My still one reserve area for putting it up at my number 1 is I just want to see how this film plays for non-movie people because we've seen over the course of the last decade, there's films about Hollywood that plays really well to people who are into movies, who love movies, but when they get out to a wider audience, they either lose their steam, like something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did in that award season, or they don't connect with everyone outside the box like Mank. I'm not saying this would be a movie like Mank, but just as another example of a Hollywood-centric movie that had big prospects upon its initial screening that kind of faded out over the course of the season. But this could be a case just like Anora last year where I'm like, oh, it played really well there, how will it do to more people? And it continues to overcome all the hurdles and eventually will make its way to my number 1.
I don't think it really matters how this plays outside of the movie lovers sphere because, again, we're talking about the Oscars. We're talking about an awards body that is voted entirely by peers. And so I do think that this has a little bit more appeal because it's about movie making, but it's not about like, oh, we're making studio movies in Hollywood in the 1960s. Remember this? It's not that at all. And I think that the strong emotional core of it, that this is more than being a movie about movies, it's a movie that is about family. And it's a movie that is about how we understand family through art, how we can sort of reckon with the past through the art that we create, and how art creates bonds, how it breaks bonds, how, you know, you can lose someone because they're too involved in their work, but their work can be what brings you back together. Anyone out there who is doubting this because it didn't win the Palm, ridiculous. Ridiculous. 19-minute standing ovation, like ridiculous audience support. And you're doubting it because it got the second prize and not the first prize? Come on. Come on. It's a jury of 9 people who gave an award, which inside intel is that Juliette Binoche forced the Panahi film through to win the Palm. If it had not been that film, it would have been The Secret Agent, the Kleber Mendonça Filho film. So, like, it was just an accident. We'll talk about that maybe in a moment, maybe later. I don't know. But I want to be very clear. That movie is nothing for awards. And if it had not won the Palm, it would be in no one's top 100 for Best Picture. The only reason anyone is considering this movie in any category whatsoever, even international, is that it won the Palm. And the Palme d'Or is not the TIFF People's Choice Award. It cannot turn a movie that would never be an Oscar contender into something that is an Oscar contender. Look at Titan. Did nothing for that. Ultimately, it's going to get more eyes on it, but that's all that this is going to do. It was just an accident. Nothing. Nada. It's not happening. Not even an international. I will stand on that. This can be in our end of year clip reel if I'm wrong. No one is going to submit this film. It is not going to get nominated for any Academy Awards. I will stick with that.
And I think another point to back you up of sentimental value is the fact that we've seen over the last few years there's films that do not win the Palm that still go on to Oscar success because they're propelled by a specific element from those films. You have the substance with its screenplay, its makeup, and Demi Moore. You can have zone of interest, with its direction and its use of sound. And here with Sentimental Value, what it sounds like, even if it's not a picture-winning film, it has the Stellan Skarsgård performance. It has the screenplay to really propel the film inside of the award season's race. So I do agree with you that front, saying because it didn't win the Palm doesn't mean it was its deaths, and it still came second place. It wasn't like it won nothing, and there's still times at the Cannes Film Festival where there's competition titles that win nothing that still go on to Oscar success. Moving from a festival that we do have reactions for, now moving on to festivals that we don't have reactions for. My number one in Best Picture currently is still Begonia from Yorgos Lanthimos. Maybe this is not the right way to go about it, as we have discussed many times on this channel. The Oscars are in a sense of community for, like you said, smaller films as well as first-time nominees in the Best Picture race. Yorgos kind of doesn't really fit in either of those categories. Begonia could be this film that could be the culmination of Yorgos' previous efforts inside of award season that build up to be like, hey, this film is still great. It has a lot to say both politically and emotionally, and it's a film that really is representative of our times at this moment. Plus, it's being backed by what we can assume to be amazing performances from Jesse Plemons, a great screenplay, as well as impressive technical craft work as we have seen in almost every Yorgos film. So while I don't have this amazing build-up like you had for Sentimental Value for Begonia at this moment, it is going to be my number one until either we get a trailer that just does not give off the best vibes, or the film screens, whether that's at Venice or if it's at Telluride, to really cement its place inside of award season.
Well, this is the thing. I don't have much to say on Begonia because I want to see some images. I want to see a trailer. I want to know what Yorgos' take on Save the Green Planet is. So I don't know what to say about this. That's the same thing. My number two right now is Marty Supreme, finally dethroned after all this time. I don't have anything to go off of on Marty Supreme either. So I'm just not even going to touch Marty Supreme this episode. I want a trailer. I want a trailer for that. I want a trailer for Begonia. I want a trailer for Jay Kelly. You know, those are the films that right now I have in my Best Picture list that I just don't know what to think about because we haven't seen anything from them yet. Actually, just moving on to Jay Kelly quickly, is it weird that we had Tudum? Is it Tudum? Tudum. We had that pass by. Didn't get a trailer for Jay Kelly. Didn't get a trailer or a title for Catherine Bigelow's White House film. I fully believe that's not even coming this year if at that event they couldn't give us a trailer or a title. And we didn't get Ballad of a Small Player. That one I'm less worried about. But Jay Kelly, you'd think that they'd show something of. And the White House movie, you'd think that they'd show something of.
For me, at least for the Netflix event, what it seemed like, because I did go back and watch it a little bit after it started because I had work that day, but a lot of what they were focusing on were their major marquee titles throughout the year, and they didn't really give any like one-off stuff like what we hear out of CinemaCon, like, oh, this panel is all about these two movies, but they still mention these other ones. This event was all just, hey, 15 minutes, movie or TV show, next 15 minutes, movie or TV show, and they didn't really do anything for like, oh yeah, we also have this coming, or we also have that coming. So it is concerning that there was no mention because, I mean, Adam Sandler was there. You could have easily lumped that into the Happy Gilmore 2 thing. Be like, hey, I also have this movie coming out later this year with George Clooney, who's also a big star in it. Directed by the guy who brought you Marriage Story, which did very well on Netflix in terms of ratings. So that is a little concerning, but I understand why, because you couldn't make a 10-minute segment at that type of an event for a film like Jay Kelly or the Catherine Bigelow movie the way you could for Frankenstein or you could for Wake Up Dead Man.
No, I disagree, man. I mean, this is the thing. You've got an all-star cast for Jay Kelly, right? They spent $120 million on White Noise. They can make a panel about Jay Kelly. I'm less worried about that one, though, because it is still more of a small indie, and we've got photos of it. We know it's coming this year. But the White House movie, you're telling me that Netflix isn't making an action thriller Catherine Bigelow movie one of their marquee titles? I'm calling something's fishy with that. I'm calling this is not releasing this year. Next year, 2026.
I could totally see it being delayed to next year, but I even think if it was confirmed that we had images or stuff that was coming this year, I still don't think that film would be included with the lineup that they did present here, because Frankenstein, at least from the trailer, we'll talk more about when we get there, seems much more populist than I think what we were really anticipating ahead of time. And while Catherine Bigelow has films to her name, she's still not a filmmaker I think of like, oh yeah, that's what you're going to drive the crowds to go see, even if it's set inside the White House, even if it is a thriller, because they did show that Ben Affleck, Matt Damon one, but that one is much more action oriented, where I would assume the Catherine Bigelow movie is going to be more drama first oriented.
But at the same time, like if they're expecting this to be a big movie, you would think that they would show something of it. And again, Jake Kelly has the thing of, well, it's maybe a little bit more low key. Maybe it's a little bit too subtle. Catherine Bigelow, not subtle, not
Mm-hmm.
subtle at all. She's big. Maybe she's not action packed, but she makes big movies. And so I'm mystified by that choice. I don't think it's coming this year. But let's just jump all the way down to Frankenstein, which I have at my number 6 right now. Where do you have it on your list?
I moved it down to my number 5 after that trailer. It previously was my number 2, my number 3, and now it's moved down a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's because I watched the trailer on my TV. I wasn't in a cinema, but that's the majority of the way that people are going to be seeing this film is at home on their TV. There was something with the cinematography and the visual style that felt a little off to me. Just the use of some of the shots that they include inside the trailer gives me more vibes of, hey, this is for populist appeal. This is more blockbustery type film than what I was thinking of before, more in that like Nosferatu style, that Nightmare Alley style, that is going to be the elements first and then all the extra stuff in addition to that. Again, this is one trailer at a Netflix event that's meant to draw viewership, so that could easily be a trailer designed for that aspect, but the cinematography isn't something I think you could change from one trailer to the next. And if it has that visual style to it, I can see it resisting in some other categories, where this is to what some of the naysayers prior to the trailer were saying, like, hey, this is just a text, a crafts player, it's not going to crack above the line. I still do have this in director as my 5 slot, but it's no longer the upper echelon of my best picture nominees. Now it's moving more into that shaky realm to where it could drop out, but I think the Guillermo del Toro tag to it, as well as what I think some of these crafts will do inside of award season, can keep it up for at least this moment until bigger contenders present themselves inside the race.
Oh, dog, we're disagreeing hard on this one because I thought this trailer looked phenomenal. Phenomenal. I mean, it definitely is a bit more Crimson Peak than I was expecting it to be, but I mean, you're talking visual style. This is the same visual style that Shape of Water had. It's the same visual style that Nightmare Alley had. Like, this is just what Dan Laustsen and Guillermo del Toro do. Um, and I think visually spectacular. To me, I'm keeping this at my number 1 in cinematography. I'm keeping it at number 1 in production design. I'm moving it up to number 1 in makeup. I feel like this has got everything it needs to. And I could even see a world where Oscar Isaac cracks into the best actor conversation for his portrayal of Dr. Frankenstein. He looks like he is doing a lot in this. I want to see more of what they do with Jacob Elordi's portrayal of the monster. I could see that be a surprising part of the conversation too, because I mean, most people think of Frankenstein as the grunting monster that, doesn't talk at all, but that's not this Frankenstein. This is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, in which the monster is a fully formed being capable of complex thought. Um, and what I've heard, I have intel. I have a friend who worked pretty high up on the production design team of this film. And I've got some early word of what they did with the makeup, which is essentially, apparently, they made it look like Jacob Elordi's face was stitched together through multiple flaps of skin, and they're all sort of overlapping and hanging over each other. And it sounds absolutely revolting, but fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the makeup design, they're hiding him. They're hiding him in the trailers the same way that they hid Bill Skarsgård in Nosferatu. And I think when we see that monster, this is going to be undeniable for makeup. At least I hope. This is, again, just hearsay from someone who worked very high up on the set. But it's something that I am really, really looking forward to. And, everything that I've heard from this guy so far has come true, at least looking at this trailer. So I have no reason to doubt what they said here. But to me, I mean, I have not thought that this was an upper echelon Best Picture contender for a while now. I don't think it's going to bring enough new to the table, but I do think that it is a safe technical player in a lot of different categories. This trailer confirmed that, and I think that in terms of adapted screenplay, barren lineup, this should be pretty safe for a nomination there. It feels really strong to me, and one of my most anticipated of the year. This is Del Toro at his most Del Toro-y. I can't wait.
I guess my comparison for upper echelon in the Best Picture race is going back to Dune inside of 2021, where it was a mainstay in all those texts. It was winning a lot of those texts. And as well as award shows that only had 5 Best Picture nominees, it was getting inside of those 5 in the Best Picture, if that was BAFTA or some of the other places as well. So, and going forward, I want to see if it goes to Venice, if it's going to no festivals, how's this reaction out of there? Because I do agree Withholding the Lordy is really great for the film. I didn't really love how they kind of had him have like a hulking out scene on a boat in the middle of the trailer. That's kind of where to the actiony populist thing. At least the way it was like filmed and presented, it just gave me those type of aesthetics over, I guess, what I was envisioning inside of my head. But again, I don't want to judge a trailer I don't want to judge a movie with only a trailer. I'm still super excited for this film. It's just no longer like, hey, this is Dune 1 where it may win like 6 texts. It's more so like, hey, makeup and production design, but other stuff may be coming down a little bit, at least on my rankings at this moment.
I do think that right now people should be seeing a path for both Netflix contenders to coexist. And by both Netflix contenders, I do mean Frankenstein and Jay Kelly. And I think Jay Kelly is the more vulnerable one right now because we haven't seen anything from it outside of a couple of photos. So this is very much how I'm feeling. 2 Netflix movies, we're back. It's the return of Netflix.
And I mean, the only reason we haven't had 2 Netflix titles in the past few years is because they haven't had a second title. It's been all in on Emilia Perez. It's been all in on Maestro. They may have come to the table at this time with other films, but they pretty much on arrival were DOA contenders, where this year, unless Jay Kelly goes off the rails, it seems like it will be a good enough contender. And I mean, if the new Knives Out movie is revolutionary in the way that the trailer makes it look like it has a whole new visual style to it, I'm not really buying it for a Best Picture nomination, but it could be more of a mainstay contender inside the race than those 2 previous entries were. But I mean, we just talked about a film that has a trailer. Why don't we dive into another film that just got a trailer the day before we're recording this with Wicked for Good? And I mean, I'm sure you'll talk about it as well. This trailer just reinforces everything that you and I had been feeling with this movie since this season has started, where it is going to match, if not eclipse, the last film's buzz inside of awards season, and with new categories and new things being brought to the table with casting and songs, there's a chance this could even increase in nominations, something that sequels and part 2s and part 3s rarely ever do inside of award season.
Completely agreed. I still have this in my top 5. I think this is going to be massive across the board. I'm talking multiple wins, and I think it climbs from its nomination total in the first one. I think this is our nomination leader this year. I am especially looking at this trailer. I think we add what no one would have believed we add for this film. I think we're going to get a Best Director nomination for John Chu, and I think we're going to get a cinematography nomination. Reason being, it seems like the visual effects team and the color grading team went back in after the response to the first film and made the colors pop more. The problem with the cinematography in the first one was never about the camera work or the compositions. It was always about the lighting, and it was always about the color grade. And those are things that can be fixed or touched up in the visual effects, in the color grade. And through this trailer, it looks like they took that feedback and rolled with it. So to me, I feel like this is very strong in those 2 categories that I never would have thought were strong before.
In addition to all the nominations they got last time, you mentioned cinematography, you mentioned director. I still think that Jonathan Bailey is on the table from what we know of the Broadway show, as well as what we saw inside this trailer. And I mean, I think there's chances for some other things to happen as well in terms of wins that it didn't get last time, and improving upon its win total from last time. I think costumes is going to repeat in the way that we saw Black Panther Wakanda Forever repeat with Ruthie Carter. They're presenting new things while keeping the visual style of the last one. If Frankenstein is not the frontrunner production design, I could see production design repeat as well. We can add in a song win, and hey, editing had a real shot. Had Ace been before the Oscars, maybe could have presented itself as a real contender inside the category. If this film connects in the way that I think all the fans want it to and the award season is hoping for it to pan out, this could win editing as well and present itself as what we're saying, a top 3, maybe even a top 2 contender, being the main populist title inside of award season.
This is the closest thing we have to the editing sound double winner, because I do believe this wins sound, and the only other title that could win both of those is Sinners, and I'm not buying that at this point. I'm not buying a Sinners double win for editing sound. I think Wicked has at least got one of those two, so we're gonna see going forward. But with this movie, the biggest hurdle for it is still that the music in part 2 is not as strong as the music in part 1 overall. I mean, there's some great tracks in here, but not as much that's as iconic as part 1. So what this movie hinges on, in my opinion, is how epic they can make the action, how big they can make the set pieces, how much they can make this part of the story cinematic. And from what I saw in the trailer, they have done that 100%. They have understood that part 1 is the party and part 2 is the action piece. It's the set piece. This is a big blockbuster in comparison to part 1. And that has me so over the moon. I think they completely understood what they need to do to differentiate this movie from the first one.
And to add to that, I think there is a case to be made that the music here might work better than it did on the Broadway show, because the reaction from part 1 last year is a lot of people, even Broadway diehards, were saying they enjoyed Cynthia and Ariana's versions of these tracks a lot more. And there's a chance that these two, as well as the rest of the ensemble cast, elevate these songs that have more mixed reception to make them much more positively received. And it could help this film, again, like we said before, propel inside of awards race. We saw even last year where some major critics groups gave this their Best Picture prize, and we even saw CCA give John M. Chu, the director, win. And I think a lot of people are writing this film off way too early, and I think there will be some people after this trailer being overtly reactionary, giving it additional wins and placing it at the Best Picture winner, which might be a little too high. But I think this film is going to be the mainstay blockbuster throughout the season and have that appeal from both the craft branches as well as the acting category. And if it can break into screenplay or can break into director, it's got support from every level of the Academy.
The other populist blockbuster that I know people are going to be screaming at the screen saying, Wicked's not going to be the big populist movie. It's going to be Sinners. Let's talk about it. I mean, it's no secret I'm not a big fan of Sinners, but I do absolutely see this being a mainstay in the season the entire way through. Do I see at the end of the year this being the undeniable winner that's going to clean up everything? No, I see this getting a score win, a song win, and getting nominations across the board. But I don't see this being the massive win competitive film that I know a lot of other people do at this point. And maybe that's my bias leaking through. But I'd love to hear from you, because I know, on the other hand, you absolutely adore the film. It's likely at the end of the year going to be your number 1 of the year. So I want to hear your take as a big fan of this movie. How are you feeling about its chances right now?
I mean, the first thing I said when I got out of the screening, I texted you saying, hey, Sinners, I wish this could be an Oscar contender, but there's no way people are going to take this serious. And what we've seen over the last few months is people are taking this movie serious upon release. My big concern with this film overperforming in terms of wins and being a real competitor for the Best Picture win prize is, yes, it is a huge sensation here domestically. You leave the US and Canada, you look at the box office numbers. To put in perspective, The Beekeeper from last year has made more money internationally than Sinners has. Yes, The Beekeeper has made $86 million internationally. Sinners has made $82 million internationally. So this is a very Americanized film. This is a very domestic heavy film in terms of its reaction, in terms of its perception, as well as in terms of its wider reach. What I would need to see from Sinners in terms of it being a Best Picture winner, being this film that could get 15 nominations, as I've seen some people predicting, the film that could win 7, 8, or 9 Oscars, is I needed to see it do the Everything Everywhere approach at BAFTA. It doesn't need to win BAFTAs. It just needs to be nominated at BAFTAs. And I know that's a long ways away inside of awards season, but the signs were there for Everything Everywhere. Even though that's in a body that is going to not react well to that movie, they still had to get that film nominations in director and picture and acting and screenplay and text. They only gave it a win in one category, but it was present for nominations everywhere. If we get to BAFTA, if Sinners is getting in with like Delroy Lindo or Miles Caden or Michael B. Jordan, if Ryan Coogler breaks into their director lineup, if it's getting every single tech nomination that people are predicting now, then yeah, Sinners, it could be a Best Picture winner. I love this movie. Maybe I'm overtly being cautious because I don't want to be let down the same way I was let down with Dune Part 2 last year, underperforming with nominations, or this seems to be a film like that every year that I love that just never really connects on the wide scale. Sinners does have a path, but I also think what I said inside my review is this is the first real Oscar contender of the year. It's what we see year in and year out. The first contender of every single year gets overpredicted, and it never reaches that mark.
I do think end of the year, this is top 5. In my opinion, top 5 end of the year. I think it's clearly in screenplay. It's clearly in director. It has enough hype for that. However, I do think that this is going to be, at least in the win conversation, overexposed too early. When we've had these early films that go on to eventually win, the thing is, they're not widely predicted as the winner right off the bat. And the thing that's going against Sinners is everyone's seeing it this way immediately. You look back at Everything Ever All at Once, which is the thing that people keep comparing Sinners to. A genre film releasing in April that just came out of nowhere, stormed the season, had massive audience appeal. People were calling, even until October, anyone predicting Everything Everywhere. They were saying, you're an idiot. There's no fucking way that happens. No way. This is not an Oscar movie. Absolutely not. And so I think something that helped Everything Ever All at Once is that although it had this massive audience love, it was still the underdog the entire way through the season. And I worry with the way that Sinners has came out and just taken America by storm, taken the industry by storm. I worry that it's not going to be the hot new thing when we get to the end of the year anymore. I think it leaves the door open for something like Wicked to come in and be the bigger blockbuster at the end of the year. The way that we saw with Dune Part 2 last year. Dune wasn't the hot blockbuster on the block anymore because suddenly Wicked's there. And so for me, there's no chance that this is not a top 5 film in critics' lists at the end of the year. There's no chance that this does not make almost every precursor, barring, I think there's an asterisk on BAFTA because, like you said, international performance. But Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, PGA, SAG, all of these major awards bodies, absolutely they're nominating Sinners. 100%. No doubt in my mind. The question for me is exclusively, can it keep the win hype in these categories going? And right now, I lean no.
Moving down my Best Picture lineup at my number 7, I have Bradley Cooper's Is This Thing On? And I don't really have anything new to say about this movie. I still think if this movie comes out this year, which according to the release schedule, they have a wide open gap for 2.5 months at the end of the year. Yes, Rental Family could be that movie, but they also have room for more movies to come out in that realm. It's not just going to be Rental Family and no other releases for 2.5 months. Until they say this is next year, I'm of the belief that it is going to be this year, and my case for Is This Thing On is the same as before. We have seen that people do enjoy Bradley Cooper, even if his films are a little bit more mixed received or don't hit the highs that some people want to see, and this will be a brand new approach that we have not seen him take before. He's done the huge biopic with Maestro. He's done the concert tech-heavy film of A Star Is Born. Now he's coming with something lighter, something more fun, something more accessible with a purely comedic film, something that a lot of people know and a lot of people love Bradley Cooper for. And this film, he's not the lead. So it could be like, hey, we don't need to nominate you for acting anymore. We can just focus on your craft work behind the lens. So it's one that I don't think will be a huge contender, but as we talked about at the beginning of the season, Searchlight, regardless of what their number 1 film is, they managed to sneak it into additional categories that people aren't expecting.
So for Is This Thing On, I have broken on my resolve. I had it so far away because I didn't think it was releasing this year. I have completely flipped on that. I think it is coming this year at this point, and I have no reason to doubt that this is Searchlight's big movie. I mean, clinging on to Rental Family at this time feels a little bit stubborn, especially because we haven't seen anything from either movie. And Is This Thing On just sounds like it has more potential. Rental Family is giving me everything about Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat, where they could easily just dump this onto Hulu. I don't think they will. I still think there's a chance that this can be something. But right now, you've got these two movies side by side. Which one seems like a bigger contender? Occam's razor. The simplest answer is often the correct one, and I think Is This Thing On is the simplest answer for Searchlight. However, I do want to put forward the possibility of something else. What if Searchlight just really doesn't have a contender this year, and we see Disney funnel their money into getting two 20th century movies in with both Avatar Fire and Ash and Deliver Me From Nowhere? I think that is as possible as Is This Thing On getting in. At the moment, I am sticking with Searchlight. I have never taken a wrong step, in my opinion, outside of like 2016. That's the one year that Searchlight has messed up. But they're not picking up another film at this point. They're not buying Amziah King. Sorry to anyone out there who thinks they're buying Amziah. They're not doing it. Searchlight is going in with a movie, and if it's Is This Thing On, Is This Thing On is happening. But there is that possibility. Maybe it's Deliver Me From Nowhere. Maybe it's Avatar, both of which I have out of my best picture list at this point.
I can totally see that being the path they go down because Avatar has the cachet. It's gotten in twice. It has secure nominations at this point, which you always want to see for a potential Best Picture nominee. And I mean, hey, this film could pack a lot more of an emotional punch that the last ones didn't really have to potentially give it an uptick in a potential nomination here or there. And my big thing for Deliver Me From Nowhere currently is we know Scott Cooper's track record. That is what has kept Matt and myself off from this movie so far. The big thing with these music biopics, how they succeed at the Oscars, is their lead actor is in win contention. He either needs to be number one or number two. If Jeremy Allen White is that this year, easy. Move this film in, I'll find room to kick something else out. However, at this moment, I don't really think he is going to be that. Nothing that he's done in his career has really given me that instinct. And I mean, the boss is big, but he's not Bob Dylan. He's not Elvis. He's not any of these other countless lead musician actors who have gotten in for their films. So if this film is bigger than what we're expecting, then easy, move it on up. But for now, I'm keeping that one out, but I am having Searchlight in with this thing on, and I am having 20th Century in for Avatar Fire and Ash.
Yeah, so I'm just not feeling over the moon about Deliver Me From Nowhere. But there are a few other movies that I'm really looking at the moment, just to round out my top 10, and then we'll get into some of the other contenders. I'm still big on my indie darling, Preparation for the Next Life, which I think is going to be Amazon MGM's big thing. I am really going out on a limb here. This is something that could be absolutely nothing, but right now I have two things, which is I believe that Amazon MGM will have a movie in Best Picture, and I do not believe that movie is After the Hunt. Which I have down at my number 15. I have it getting 3 nominations for Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, and no, I have it missing screenplay. I have it getting 2 nominations for Andrew Garfield and for Julia Roberts. So I don't think it's After the Hunt. And to me, right now, the juiciest prospect is Preparation for the Next Life. Fully admitting that could be a complete pipe dream. I could be out of my damn mind with this one. But right now, it is the prospect that I want to see happen. I know you have a different Amazon MGM movie in your top 10, so I'll give you some time for that in a moment. But just rounding out my top 10, after Cannes, not being confident in any of the other international contenders that we have received so far. I have Sentimental Value very high, but I don't believe in It Was Just an Accident. I don't believe in The Secret Agent. I don't believe in Surat. I don't believe those films are big things. I would love to still have Sound of Falling in here. It's too artsy. I've moved it way the hell down. And so I'm going down to what I think another Venice movie will be. Looking at last year, we had 2 international movies, one from Cannes, one from Venice. So this year, my going out on a limb is No Other Choice as my Venice contender. Now, I do think that this plays at Venice because we know it has a fall release date in South Korea. And so if they're playing it in the fall in South Korea, they're premiering it before then. They're not waiting till Cannes next year. So right now, No Other Choice. That's my number 10. We really don't have any information, no visuals from it. Right now, I just want two of these movies in my top 10. That's exclusively my logic here. Probably broken logic. We could have a year without two international films, but right now, I want something Venice.
So you mentioned Amazon MGM. I do have Hedda still as my representative here. My confidence is waning the further we go. It's really backing behind Tessa Thompson in the lead actress category, getting hyped for a career best performance, which is all just hope dictating here. So there's nothing to go off of that of intel or anything like that. It's been crickets with this movie. I want to take it out, but I do agree that Amazon MGM has shown their track record. Regardless of the highs and lows of their nominations, they're going to get a film in a lineup of 10. And this is the one that I currently have because I can see the avenue between how it's been described as a brand new take on this iconic subject matter where if it does connect, it could lead to some additional nominations elsewhere. But I would say if you do have After the Hunt getting in lead actors, getting in supporting actor, getting into screenplay for people out there, that's the movie you should just predict. Amazon MGM does not do two campaigns. They're all in a one movie for the most part. We saw last year them try to do challengers, and it went really nowhere, at least in terms of the Academy Awards. So I would say if you are thinking Julia Roberts is in win contention, just go with After the Hunt, even if you're hesitant on things that you may have heard about the movie. And then for my 10th slot, you may be going for an additional international feature. I'm going with a film that has the international appeal, but not in terms of the filmmaking, in terms of the subject matter, because I am bringing back Joseph Kosinski's F1 inside my top 10 in my Best Picture race, because this film is doing exactly everything I wanted to see it do when we had our very first Best Picture predictions at the beginning of this year, because the pre-sales have been off the charts. Originally, this film was projected to open in the $40 to $50 million range. Now, it's all the way up into the $85 to $95 million range here domestically. That's not even counting for where this film's real market is outside the US and Canada. And then they screened this film to critics last night. My press screening for this would have been in a week if I didn't have work. So they're even giving it to regional critics 3.5 weeks in advance of this film's domestic release. That to me screams confidence. Whether that's Apple, whether that's Warner Brothers, they think they have a heater here. Maybe that's just in terms of public populist appeal and not award season, but if they are showing this much confidence, at least in terms of the review embargo and letting people see this film early and get their reactions out, that could inspire people to really rally behind this film. Maybe the same way a lot of people are talking about Sinners, where it's like, oh my gosh, it's so good, I never expect this movie to be so big, that can carry over to F1 as well inside of award season, because just like Sinners in the sound categories, F1 has a case in sound, has a case in editing, has a case in cinematography for major nominations and even win competition. And if it's in those three categories, that could be enough paired with a Best Picture nomination.
One thing I gotta ask you here, how are you reckoning, looking at your Best Picture list, with 4, potentially 5 blockbusters on your list, with Wicked, For Good, Sinners, Avatar, and F1 all being those major populist movies, plus the potential of considering Frankenstein among that bunch, because we know that's going to be huge on Netflix, even though it won't have the box office numbers to back it up. That is a populist horror film. So how are you justifying 5 out of 10 fitting that mold?
In terms of populist films inside the Best Picture, it does not happen very often that we get 3+. But in the year of Avatar: The Way of Water, Top Gun: Maverick, and Elvis, we had 3 films there. And you can argue that All Quiet on the Western Front, had it gotten a theatrical release here domestically, could have had a populist appeal to it because it did do well in the international markets it got to release theatrically in. And then the other year I want to reference is the year of Parasite winning Best Picture, where Parasite made so much money internationally. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 1917, Ford v Ferrari, Joker, all huge money makers, and even Little Women did better than most Best Picture nominees have done post-pandemic at the box office. So it's not like they're adverse from doing all blockbuster films. What typically happens, though, is these blockbuster films become award season films because of how people rave about these movies. Like when Joker was announced, no one assumed that would be an award season film. Ford v Ferrari is another one where, because of how much people connected with the film, it broke its way inside of the award season race. Hollywood 1917, you can say those are kind of Oscar bait movies. Same thing with Little Women, but we've seen the Best Picture lineup be filled of moneymakers in the past. Maybe this year can be another one of them, but I do agree. 5 is probably a little bit too high.
Going back to where this started, F1, I think, is much more likely than I thought it was a week ago. You're right. The studio has insane confidence in this movie, screening it a month before, having the review embargo lift so early. It's clear that people are going to see this one. People are going to love this one. Top Gun Maverick was not lightning in a bottle for Joseph Kosinski. But to me, I'm just struggling to see this fitting into the current lineup and the current makeup of the lineup. But I do think it is very, very possible as other things drop off. Now, another Warner Brothers blockbuster that's coming this summer that I'd love to talk about, not summer, I mean, it's late September now, but One Battle After Another. Neither of us have this in our Best Picture lineups. And a lot of people are going to call us crazy for that. They have been for months now. But as we get closer and closer to the release, my resolve hardens on it that they're not taking this to festivals as far as we know. We have heard no plans for Venice. We've heard no plans for TIFF or Telluride. They're just going to premiere this in late September and go, fuck it. It's whatever. To me, everything around this release feels like David Zaslav is going to try to punish the previous heads of the film division for giving this movie as much money as it was given. So I think that a lot of energy is going to be spent on burying this movie this year. And I feel like while the critical reception will be good, it's not going to be There Will Be Blood. It's not going to be through the roof. To me, I see this as closer to Inherent Vice than I think a lot of people are wanting to see it at this point. So right now I have One Battle After Another with 2 nominations, adapted screenplay and original score, and I've got nothing else for it right now.
I mean, in terms of Warner Brothers' approach to One Battle After Another, they're doing the exact same thing they did with Sinners. Sinners was supposed to have the Mickey 17 same weekend as the Oscars release, just Coogler had not finished the edit of the movie, so they had to delay it a little bit, and were going to do any promo, no festivals, just release the movie and let the internet have its way. So there's a chance that if they do the same thing here, that the love, the admiration for PTA comes through. This movie could be a heater, could be a banger, and propels itself inside the race and really captures the zeitgeist. The biggest issue between the approach with Sinners and the approach with One Battle After Another is Sinners had months, or I guess 2 months, of no other contenders. It's the center of attention for people inside this space, as well as just the Hollywood landscape as well. One Battle After Another is releasing during 2 festivals. Venice will have just concluded. TIFF is just about to kick off. There's going to be so many movies in the conversation on top of whatever films are dominating the box office at this time, where this film, even if it does become a breakout success, there's going to be so many conversations happening elsewhere where maybe this film can survive, and it is screenplay, it is score, it is maybe another tech, but I struggle to see it be what a lot of people had thought it was going to be at the beginning of the season when I was saying like, hey, this feels like it could be a 10-11 type nominee where it's either just in or just out. Now I'm kind of much more leaning to more out, but still could survive in other categories like you made the comparison of Inherent Vice.
Yeah, I mean, to me, regardless of how poorly the film does at the box office, regardless of the critical take on the film, I think the writers' branch will always support PTA. They didn't with The Master. That's a weird thing. But Inherent Vice, they still gave it an adapted screenplay nomination. And this year, when we have a weak adapted screenplay field, this feels like a no-brainer to me. The writers branch will support PTA, and I think the music branch will support Johnny Greenwood. So those are the 2 nominations that I feel confident about, even if the film is the flop that I expect it to be. Now, something I'd love to talk about, your number 11, my number 18, Die My Love. This is one that you had as your number one in Best Picture for ages, which I know I kept yelling at you, and I apologize for yelling at you many times. But I kept saying there's no goddamn chance. I want to say that I do think that there's a better chance for this movie than I originally thought there was. I still don't think it's a good chance, but I do think that the amount of money Mubi spent on acquiring this movie, $23 million, dollars, it's clear they're going to put everything they have into getting this movie into the Oscar conversation. Now, my take on this is still that no matter how hard they push it, this is Spencer at the very best, in that I see Jennifer Lawrence as being a bottom of the top five contender for Best Actress, and this getting no other nominations. I do think Jennifer Lawrence will consistently be in through the season, but I do see her as never being in win contention, always being that number four, number five slot. But I'd love to hear your take on the film after hearing the reviews.
I guess for new viewers here, my original take on Die My Love was kind of the reaction that we kind of got out of Sentimental Value, where it is the best film in this very acclaimed director's catalog, backed by amazing performances, ones that are in win contention, that also packs an emotional punch and connectivity with its audience. Obviously, this film seems to be a little bit more divisive, but my mainstay for why this film would be an Oscar competitor still holds true. It's Jennifer Lawrence. People love her even in films that aren't very acclaimed, and this apparently from a lot of people, I know not from you, but from a lot of people who attend the festival, are saying it's her best career work to date. And I think that if she is in the win contention, the same way that Demi Moore was last year, and something else with this film can come along, maybe the cinematography, maybe something else, then it can be a Best Picture nominee. That's why it's my number 11. I need to see Lawrence become the early critics' favorite. I need to see cinematography be a mainstay throughout the early season. And then we talk about how weak Adapted is. Adapted nomination. Right there is 3 nominees. Maybe she is the woman who is representing the best director lineup this year. That is its case to still survive in the Best Picture race. Obviously, I have it on the outside looking in, but as more competitors fall, we know there is a passionate fan base behind this film currently, and we know there is a studio and a distributor who is passionate and who wants to be inside the award season sphere, and they have a film that I think they can navigate to nominations. It's just, how will people react? Are there going to be more mixed? Is this film too out there for them? All the things that you were warning me about pre-release? Or will this film be able to break through the mold, break through the cracks, and sneak into categories the same way that both you and I were hesitant on The Substance all year last year until it became undeniable? I don't think Die My Love is going to be the huge success that The Substance was, getting 7 or 8 nominations and being a huge box office player, but I do think that it could find its own unique mold, at least looking at the race right now. There's not another film like this in terms of tone and style and its potential direction inside of award season, which could propel it inside the race. But again, 11, that's where we're at currently.
One other thing that I think we should address at this point, because I know there's still a ton of people out there who are predicting widely, even for 10 plus nominations, the rivals of Amziah King. Now, maybe some of you out there are looking at us and screaming at your screen saying, what do you mean you have the rivals of Amziah King near your 30 slot? Let me explain why I have this movie at number 29. I don't think that this is releasing this year. And to me, what we are seeing, we are now 3 months out of its debut. It premiered at South by Southwest, and it did not do a damn thing. It did not sell. It got great audience reception. However, you would think that with that audience reception, someone out there would have picked the film up. And the response I always hear to that is people saying, oh, well, they're just asking too much money. People are waiting for them to drop the price down. But if a studio thought that this was a big contender or a big box office player or something that could fit as a staple of their release year, someone would have bought this already. Someone would have said, yeah, I'll play ball. I'll buy it. If Die My Love sold for 23 million, if Kiss of the Spider Woman sold for around the same price. What the hell are they asking for the rivals of Amziah King? That's too much money for a studio to buy. So the fact that we have now passed Cannes, we've made tons of sales, to me says that a studio is waiting for TIFF for this to play again. They will buy it and they will slot it for next April. This is going to be next year's Life of Chuck in that, or Sing Sing. That's another one where it plays at TIFF, someone buys it, and they release it the next spring. And I've heard a lot of people saying, we're waiting for Searchlight. We're waiting for Searchlight. But I did a deep dive into Searchlight's buying patterns. Searchlight buys at 2 festivals and 2 festivals only. They exclusively buy at Sundance and at TIFF. And if they buy at Sundance, it's a fall release. If they buy at TIFF, it's a spring release. Think Chevalier or the personal history of David Copperfield. So in my opinion, what we're seeing with the Rivals of Amziah King is a stalemate, that everyone has their contenders. No one sees this fitting into their release schedule, and we get this film in 2026, at which point it will be DOA, in my opinion. So that's how I'm feeling about Rivals of Amziah King. You guys can yell at me if I'm wrong, but right now I have no reason to believe that this is a contender this year, that any studio wants it for 2025, and that even if they do, that they have enough faith to make this their main push.
I would say the one caveat to that Searchlight set would be is the year they bought Jackie, but there was a lot of extra factors inside that season for why they had to buy another film to compete inside the race. And ultimately, Jackie underperformed at Missed Picture and missed on other key nominations that people were expecting on nomination morning. And that's kind of how I'm feeling about the Rivals of Amziah King too. And I would also like to add that South by Southwest is the festival that's known for being overtly positive about movies that most other people aren't nearly as positive about. And I think studios do know that, and with the price tag attached, they aren't really willing to put that up, and they're waiting for another festival to really go out of their way to give it its flowers. And I would say if you're looking for a film that has early buzz that critics and audiences do like, that could get technical support and acting branch support, that played at a festival earlier this year but has been purchased, it is Lionsgate with Kiss of the Spider Woman. We just got a trailer for it the other day. The reactions to the trailer seem to be pretty positive, and Lionsgate has shown in the past that when they actually come to play ball, they can get nominations. They just haven't played ball since pre-COVID, essentially, with Bombshell. So, like, if they do want to bring Kiss of the Spider-Woman to the table, this could be what people think Amziah King could be on the low end, where it could be an acting player. It could get in for 2 or 3 texts. I'm not saying picture, but it could be J-Lo, production design, costumes, and makeup, and you have yourself a little minor contender that is the musical audience favorite hit of the season that actually already has a distributor.
Mm-hmm. This is the thing, man. Like, I feel like people are bending themselves in circles to justify Amziah King at this point. Spider-Woman, I don't see, but at least someone bought it. At least someone bought it. At least it has that. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's possible if Lionsgate gives their everything to it. But at most, I kind of see Jennifer Lopez as the cap for this movie, especially after seeing the trailer. I wasn't wowed by the costumes, the production design, the makeup, anything like that. It really seems like they're centering everything in this movie around Jennifer Lopez.
Well, thank you all so much for tuning in today's Best Picture updated episode post-Cannes Film Festival. As we said before, Matt went to the festival this year. If you want to check out his coverage, click the title card up above. But until next time, my name's Dyl.
And my name's Matt, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.